clocks will be ringing early tomorrow for more than 1 million students headed back to the classroom right here in New York City for the first day of school.
That's right. It's also a first for the new school's chancellor, Richard Carranza, who was appointed back in April. Chancellor Carranza joining us this morning to discuss his priorities for the upcoming school year. So welcome to you.
Good morning.
Happy first day of school tomorrow in advance for the students and you.
Can't wait.
Let's get some of the hot button issues right now that parents are certainly concerned about heading into this school year.
Sure.
Of course, the big topic is security, and some parents want to know, what are your plans that you came in and kind of analyzed everything over the last couple months to make sure their kids are safe heading back to school?
The good news is NYPD has been working very closely with us before I ever got here, and we have continued to do that work together over the summer. We've looked at our emergency plans, we've reviewed buildings, so I want to make sure people understand NYPD is working hand in hand with us to make sure we're secure. We've also invested in training our teachers and our administrators and school staff around creating environments so that students feel safe, that when they see something, they hear something, they suspect something, they can report it to an adult. They know it'll get followed up on, and it'll be done anonymously. So we're both doing the hard work of buildings, but we're also creating the culture and climate so that students protect themselves as well.
You know, there was a town hall a couple months ago, and one of the things that parents and students actually talked about was they don't know their school safety officer. They don't have that relationship with them to approach them and say, hey, I have an issue.
Yeah.
So are you working on those relationships as well?
A lot. So, you know, we're really excited about the leadership we have at NYPD. So, you know, the neighborhood policing concept, we're taking that into our school safety officers as well. So it's a school kind of neighborhood policing kind of concept, so that school safety officers realize they're part of the campus, they're part of the environment. So they're going to be working on creating those relationships with students this year as well.
One of the things that parents have been talking about, metal detectors in schools, and if all schools across the 5 boroughs will get them. We have a viewer question that we want to pull up for you regarding this.
Great.
Hi, my name is Michael Conti, and my question for you is, do you think there should be security checkpoints walking into elementary schools in Bushwick?
Good question. You know, I've also been to many town halls my first few months on the job all over the 5 boroughs, and I will tell you that it may seem counterintuitive, but universally in all the 5 boroughs, the students in those town halls said to me, you know, we want to be safe. We know we have a responsibility, but we don't want our schools to look like prisons. As I talk to parents, parents just want to be sure that there are safety plans, that there are safety measures in place, but they also said we don't want to walk into a prison. So that's why we think the best approach is to actually look at the data where there's a need for those kinds of physical barriers. We are deploying those physical barriers, but where there's a need not to have them, we're also taking those back, and that's really on a just-in-time data process that we're working with NYPD on as well.
So personally, are you for metal detectors?
I'm for creating environments where kids, you know, after every shooting, there's been a study that was done by the Secret Service, and they found that in every school shooting that has happened all the way back to Columbine, somebody on that campus knew something, suspected something, heard something, but didn't report it, and then you had the tragedy that happened. I can tell you the things that don't get reported are the instances where students have already come forward and say, hey, somebody's having a bad day, or somebody's got something from somebody else, and they get followed up on, they get taken care of. So that is by far the most effective way of keeping campuses safe.
Have you seen the crime stats with NYPD? You mentioned that they're working them. We're going to put them up on your screen in just a moment about sex crimes, significantly up regarding students across the 5 boroughs. What can you tell parents, especially when you see felony assaults up and sex crimes up more than 130% from last year?
Yeah, so
how is that okay?
Well, it's not okay. It's absolutely not okay. And I think what parents need to be really involved with is talking to their children, making sure they know who they are, who they're with, who they're hanging out with, but making sure that parents also have the tough conversations with children about, you know, their bodies, and no one should be able to touch their body, and making sure that students are well armed that way. You know, schools are a microcosm of society, and when you look at the broader society, there's some big issues that we're all dealing with in society. So in schools, we're going to make sure that the adults are trained. They're mandatory reporters. We're going to make sure that we have social emotional learning supports for students that are having a bad time. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that it is not acceptable for any of these kinds of activities to happen in schools.
I know you love talking to parents and students. You've been doing a lot of it over the last couple of months. A big issue has actually been segregation and rezoning, trying to figure out how to do this fairly and accurately. You actually said a system of segregation is baked into the school system and just kind of accepted. So how do you work around that in a fair way for parents who pay a lot of money to live in certain districts, but also be inclusive?
Well, I think, New Yorkers are inclusive. New Yorkers are progressive. New Yorkers feel like they want to help the next guy. So I think when you talk about public education, the reality is that if we do not educate the 1.1 million children in our school system, then we're not investing in the future of New York. These are future New Yorkers, future teachers, administrators, news anchors. So we all have a vested interest in making sure they get the best education possible. That being said, there's obviously a proposal that the mayor and I have put forward around the specialized schools. That's just one small, tiny bit of the bigger conversation. But there are whole systems and structures that we should have a conversation about. They were established for a reason. Does the reason that was used for their establishment still pertain today in the current environment with the current demographics of our city? And we should have a conversation about that. That being said, I'm really proud of some local school districts. I mean, District 1, District 3, now District 15 have had very ingrained granular conversations, and they brought forward proposals that are serving
It's a double-edged sword here.
Sure.
Because some parents are saying, but I pay all this money to live in this district. And and now we're going to be busting those from other districts, and other people are saying, give us a chance.
The concern is you don't want to lower the standards of the school,
Well,
right?
Yeah, again, we're not talking about busing. And I think that New Yorkers would be offended at the notion that if you include certain kids, you're lowering standards. That's the wrong language to use. What we're talking about is we're including New Yorkers in schools that are literally sometimes right around the corner, but they can't get in.
But what's the criteria for including those in a more competitive school?
Well, I think the competition is, why are we competing with kids in middle school or elementary school? Why is that a competition? The research is pretty clear, and it's been really clear for a long time that when you have more inclusive schools that are diverse schools, you don't lower the quality. What you do is you actually enrich what happens in those schools. So there's no evidence that says by having a more inclusive school, you're going to lower the quality. And I think that's a mental hurdle that we have to start addressing. That's why I keep saying we need to have this conversation. We're going to keep pushing this conversation because I don't think anyone says we want to have a system of schools for certain kids and another system of schools for other kids. That's just not who we are, especially in New York.
All right, well, thank you so much. We would love to talk to you for hours, but we got to let you go.
Thank
you for helping explain and navigate some of this, and good luck tomorrow on your first
day of school tomorrow. Drive safely, slow down.
Yes, of
Please.
course.
We should also mention something really quickly, that we were talking about the heat here, and it's so hot, but you're saying by 2021, some breaking news, all New York City classrooms will have air conditioning.
Well, it's not breaking news. We've had a plan in place now for a few years, and we're steadily knocking those out.
Right.
So
Great.
we're moving towards that.
2021,
We appreciate
looking
it.
forward to it.